Hello and welcome back to class, students. It's been a little while, but we're going to try and get back to teaching the best that we can. So these lessons are all going to be in video form, so you have to do exactly what you did today, which is to go to my website, click on the video. If you would like to take notes along with the video, then you can do so with your own piece of paper. If you have the ability to print and want to, I did put on my website a blank copy of the notes so you can take notes while you watch the video. But don't feel like you have to. You don't really need to print anything for me. You just need paper, pencil, and a calculator. That's all you're going to need. So we're starting our new unit, and our new unit is measurement, and we're going to focus on volume of prisms. Volume is what you do when you're filling something. So let's talk about what a prism is. A prism, by definition, and here is our definition right here, is a polyhedron with two parallel bases. Now the bases can be different depending on how you turn this, but the bases typically would be your bottom and your top. Okay, so the base here and the base here, they're both squares and they are parallel. They're never going to touch. They're equally distant from each other. This is called a rectangular prism because the top and the bottom are both rectangles and they are parallel. This last one here looks like a Toblerone candy, and this is called a triangular prism. The base here is a triangle, which is parallel to the triangle on the inside here. There's a triangle on the inside, this one over here. Can't really see it, and I'm trying my best to make it a visual, but I'm not sure if that's really working so well. But you have a triangle in the front and you have a triangle in the back. Okay, and when we're finding the volume, there's this lovely formula that we are going to use. Its volume is equal to big B. Big B actually stands for area of the base, and H stands for the height of the prism. Let's go back to something that we've seen in elementary school. If you remember, you probably had these small cubes and you were filling up containers, blank containers. And each one of these was one square unit of something. So one square unit might be, say, a square inch. A square inch would be 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch. And the volume of this would be 1 square inch. So it would be 1 square inch. Or it could be a cubic foot, or it could be a cubic yard, or it could be a cubic mile, or a cubic meter, centimeters, whatever. Basically what you were doing is you were counting how many of those cubes it took to fill the object. So what we do essentially is we take the base, which is, say, the bottom layer, or if you flip it upside down, it could be this top layer. Doesn't really matter. Let's see how many I would have here in the bottom. Or, like I said, we could look at the top. It doesn't really matter. Actually, if we look at the top, it might be easier. So let's count how many we have. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 cubic inches or cubic units, whatever they would be, in one layer. And I have 3 layers. So what I would do is I would find, all right, what's the area of just the base? And then we'd multiply it by how many layers we have, which would be 3 layers. So altogether in this problem, if one layer has an area, or excuse me, has an area of 6, then I just multiply that times how many layers I have, which is 3. So find the area of the base and then multiply it by how tall it is. Find the area of the base and multiply it by how tall it is. So if I go back to this right here, and I'm looking at the cube, okay? If I'm looking at the cube, the base is a square. So if I'm thinking of big BH, to find the area of a square, I would do side times side. Well, then I multiply it by how tall it is. That's my h. Well, that would also have the same measurement because a cube has the same side measures. So I'd have side times side times side, or side cubed. A rectangular prism, your V is equal to big BH. Your base is a rectangle. Whoops. Your base is a rectangle, so you'd find the area of that by going length times width, and then you'd multiply it by how tall it is, which is your height. The triangular prism here, you'd find the area of the base. Now the base would be a triangle here. Hopefully you remember how to find the area of a triangle. To find the area of a triangle, you do half base times height. Now that's the base and the height of the triangle. That's going to be the base and the height of the triangle. Now something you need to remember is that your base and your height have to be perpendicular to each other. That means they have to cross at a 90-degree angle. And then you multiply it by how tall or how deep the object is, and we'll call that height here. All right, let's practice using some of these equations. Are you ready? Okay, let's look at this first problem. In this first problem, we want to find the volume of this object. Now this object is a cube. So if you were to do your big BH, you'd find the area of the bottom, which is clearly, I can see from this, it's going to be 6 by 6, which means the area of the bottom would be 36. And then you multiply it by how many layers you have, which is 6. So to find the volume of this, you could use one of the many formulas. You could do length times width, because it is a rectangle on the bottom, and multiply it by how tall it is. So it'd be 6 times 6 times 6. Or you could have used the formula side to the third power, which would be 6 to the third power. All right, I'm going to have to calculate that. So that's 6. Okay, I got to change to this. So 6 times 6 times 6 gives me 216. So the volume is equal to 216. Now I just need my units here, and that would be meters. So that would be meters to the third power, because these are cubic units. If you think back to laws of exponents, meters times meters times meters, you would add the exponents. So that's going to give us meters to the third power. Let's try another one. Find the volume of this. Okay, so you can either use this formula, big BH, or it's a rectangular prism, length times width times height. Okay, we got to figure out what our base is here. If I use this right here as my base, and that's fine, then the length and the width of that would be 10 times 2. Now you have to measure how long or how tall this is, and that would be times 7. So our volume here is 10 times 2 times 7. So let's see, I'm going to go with 2 times 7, which is 14. 14 times 10, 140. And that would be cubic feet. Let's try another. Now this one's certainly a more complicated problem. So in this case, we're going to have to use our formula. Again, we could do big BH if we want to and just work from that one. Base, our two parallel sides, are triangles. Okay, so I'm going to find the area of a triangle. That would be 1/2 base times height. But then you're going to have to multiply it by how tall, or what's the height of the whole object. So I'm going to call that a big H right there. Okay, Let's put these numbers in. Let's look at our base. Now the thing you have to recognize about your base is that your base and your height for your triangle, so down here, your triangle, you're going to do 1/2 base times height. I love this measurement of 10, but guess what? That's not the measurement that I need. In your triangle, your base and your height are perpendicular to each other. I need these two measurements. And if I look on top, this is 8 and this is 6. So my volume here is 1/2 times, and these can be changed, it doesn't matter, 8 times 6. Now I have to multiply this by how tall, or what's the height of the object, and that would be 9. So they gave me this 10, but it was not needed. I didn't need it. Be careful on that. So volume is equal to, let's punch this in our calculator here. So 0.5, I don't think it typed in the 0.5. Okay, so I'm going to try another way here. So I'm going to go 8 times 6 times 9 equals, and now I'm going to divide that by 2. That's how I'm going to take half. Equals 144. And that would be meters to the 3rd power. Okay, let's try another. All right, same thing. Big BH. Our base is a triangle, so that's 1/2 base times height times the height of the whole object. So either one of those formulas is fine. Okay, our base is our triangle down here. Your base and your height are perpendicular to each other. Perpendicular to each other is this right here. These two are perpendicular to each other. Do you see that? See the little right angle symbol? That's important. These are the two measurements that I want. So I have 1/2 times 6 times 2. Now I have to multiply it by how tall my prism is, and that is by 7. So let's see. Volume is equal to, I might be able to do some of this in my head. So 1/2 of 6 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 7 is 42. And that would be cubic kilometers. All right, let's try a little something else. This time I'm telling you the volume is 80 cubic centimeters. And I'm telling you the length is 5. Find the height if the width is 2. All right, the key to doing all of these problems is going to be ESA. Hopefully you remember ESA. E stands for equation. S stands for substitution. And A stands for answer. Okay, so it says that we have a rectangular prism, so it's V is equal to length times width times height. I like the more specific one for this. Volume is 80. That goes right here. The length is 5. That goes right here. The width is 2. And the height, I don't know. So now this is just 80 is equal to 10h. And solve it. So 8 is equal to h. And that would be 8 centimeters. All right, let's do this again. Oh, much more complicated. We're definitely going to need this calculator here. Okay, find the missing dimension if the volume is. All right, looks to me like a rectangular prism, so volume is equal to length times width times height. Let's plug in what we know. So the volume is 780.64. Looks like I'm missing my length. We can count that as the length. We could count it as the height. It really doesn't matter. So I'll just leave that as L times 6.8 times 8.2. So 780.64 is equal to, all right, got to do some of this math here. well, wait a minute. Let's get rid of that. 6.8 times 8.2. 55.76. So 55.76 L. Now I'm going to divide both sides so that I can get the L all by itself. So length is equal to 780.76. Nope, typed that in wrong. 780.64 divided by 55.76. And that's giving me 14, and that sounds right. So that would be 14 centimeters. Okay, let's try one last problem. This one's a little different. This one is calculating the total volume of this. All right, so total volume. We have two shapes here. So we're going to first find the volume of the rectangular prism, and then it looks like we're going to find the volume of the triangular prism. So the rectangular prism would be length times width times height. The triangular prism would be half base times height times the height of your whole triangular prism. Okay, let's deal with the bottom first. Length times width times height. Well, that looks pretty straightforward. That one not so bad. All right, the triangular prism, which to me is the hardest one, you're going to do 1/2 times the base. So here we have our triangle. Again, with our triangle, we're looking for the two perpendicular. These two right here. Whoops. Okay, so my base here is along the bottom. That would be 1.8 times the height of my triangle, which is 0.7, times the height, or how long or tall this object is. So that's going to be 1.1. Now you're going to notice they gave me some measurements that I didn't need here. Okay, and that's okay. They gave me this 1.14. I don't need that. I don't need it here. I don't need it here. To find the bottom, I need length times width times height. To find the top here, I need to do half base times height of my triangle here times the length or the height. So be very careful. Sometimes it's going to be deceiving. They're going to put numbers here that you don't need. Okay, so let's multiply this first one. So 1.8 times 1.1. Whoops. Okay, look at how fast I got with the calculator. All right, I'm just kidding. I paused the video so I could put these numbers in. So I multiplied that, and now I'm just going to add these two together, and that's going to give me 2.277, and that would be cubic meters. Okay, what I'd like you to do is do some independent practice on your own. If you go to my website, you're going to find a worksheet. You do not have to print it. All you have to do is just look at the questions and write down your ESA on a sheet of paper. For my students who take a little bit longer, I would start with doing all the odds and then go back and work on the evens. Okay? So I'd like you to try and get all 8 done, but I'm going to say start with the odds and then go back to do the evens. All right, you guys, email me or send me a message in our new Microsoft Teams page if you need any help. I'm here to help. Good luck.